Hello everybody and welcome to the Information Paradise podcast, a podcast which provides information on how to realize our true infinite nature, thereby creating a paradise of mind and world. Here we are with Tarun, Pradhaan, again, a welcome face on the channel. Welcome back, Tarun, Pradhaan.
Thank you very much. It's always my pleasure.
We're going to talk about death again today. This is part 2 of death. There is a 2.5 hour video called Death Part 1, and we thought that there's more to go into. Watch that video and come to this one. But again, just like with anything, death is nothing really to fear, or rather, we are able to not fear it. So, would you agree with that, Tarun?
There are 2 levels of fear as far as death is concerned. There are 2 levels of fear. The first level is very, very bodily, kind of egoic level. It's a kind of knee-jerk reaction, a control system, where we do fear the death. We do fear the danger. For example, if you start falling from the chair, you are going to protect yourself. What protects you? It is a very rudimentary kind of fear. I don't want to fall. And you can see it when you are driving very, very fast and a truck comes in front of you suddenly. What do you experience? Fear. That is a very basic kind of fear, which should be in everybody. It is a healthy kind of process. It is a healthy kind of activity of the mind, because it saves our life, because it is necessary for survival. Now, and nobody can say that it is wrong. We cannot say that it's a kind of wrong kind of fear, like we should not have that fear. There are some people who don't have that fear and they die very quickly. So it is necessary for survival. There is another kind of fear, another layer of fear, which is mostly in the emotional layer of the mind. Like it is a constant dread, it's a constant terror that happens in the intellect or the emotion. Like the person does not want to get out of his house because some fear, you see, somebody will kill me. And the person keeps washing his hands every minute because there are diseases out there. I need to wash my hand. And not comfortable talking to anybody, any stranger, or not comfortable traveling anywhere because people are bad, or not comfortable staying alone in the room. You turn off the light and becomes terrified of something. That kind of fear is mental disease, also called the phobia. Like there is no rational reason to be afraid or to protect the body, but the person is always in a protection mode, like always in the defense mode. I need to run, I need to say these things and all. Such a person often becomes violent also, because the strategy of the survival is, when you are afraid, you become angry to protect yourself. Either you run away if the situation demands that you don't run away, and what do? You become angry. You kill before the other kills you. This is our instinct. Such a person is not only afraid, he's always angry. He's always hating something or the other, and always insecure, not happy at all. Very, very distorted kind of mind. And that kind of fear is a mental disease. As you can see, as you start describing this kind of person, you will see that it is not healthy. Fear of death appears in such forms, and then it is not healthy. If it is within the body is trying to protect itself, the mind is trying to protect, this organism is trying to protect itself, it's fine, it's okay. So fear of death can take the form of resistance to knowledge. Here is something important that every seeker should know. When I say that you are wrong, what do you feel? You feel a threat. Oh, somebody is attacking me. And that attack is related to survival instincts. So what will such a person do who is not aware of this thing, that the body does this, the mind, the ego does this, the lower layers do that, they resist whatever the other person is saying. If it is against what they think or believe, then the person closes down. He says, no, I'm not going to listen to you because you're attacking me. You said I'm wrong, that means you do not like me probably. Or you hate me, you're going to kill me. So these primitive things, primitive thoughts, they cloud the mind, and the seeker cannot even listen to why he is wrong. What is the reason that his guru or somebody else is criticizing him for thinking something stupid? And such people do not learn anything. They simply defend what they know. This is very well known. We call it a religious mind. It religiously follows the conditioning that happened initially. The first belief that got hold of that mind keeps defending that belief for the rest of his life. Such people are not suitable for spiritual seeking. They are not suitable for any kind of exploration, actually. They will never explore. They simply dig a pit for themselves and they stay there. What is the reason? The reason is fear. Mostly, it's the fear of getting eaten, getting killed. And the mind does this through associations, like associates. The behavior of the other is seen as a threatening behavior because somebody opposed you, which is not good in a tribal society, you see. If nobody likes what you do and what you think, well, the survival of the individual is kind of compromised there. So we still have that kind of behavior. And you will find that the people of same mentality, they huddle together, like they are always herding together. This is also called the cultism, religious behavior. They are not interested in knowing what is true, what is false. What are they interested in? Survival. Like, I'll stick to the person who thinks like me, so that I'm threatened very, very less, probably never in my life. So they herd together like sheep, like animals, and they defend as a herd. Like somebody pokes them, like, look, you guys, you, whatever you think and whatever you do is not good, not correct, and the whole herd, the whole mob will try to damage that person, will try to kill that person. And you see that 99.9% of humanity is like this. They are all mentally diseased. So a seeker is free from this kind of fear. How do we free our minds from this kind of fear? By rational and logical thinking. We disconnect the survival from intellectual process. It's very easy. It's very easy. Whenever we are discussing something which is only intellectual, which is not a threat to the body, we ignore it. It's simple. It's very, very simple. We ignore the fear that the lower layers are producing. And we do not take everything that you say as insult. That is, we take it as instruction. And that is also called surrender in the spiritual circles. You need to surrender to the knowledge. You accept that I am ignorant, and then surrender to the one who is teaching you. And who is the one who is teaching you? Obviously, your master, your guru. So that is the surrender to the guru. It is kind of second stage of surrender. You surrender to the one who is imparting the knowledge. If you do not, you will enter a mode of conflict with your own master. Like there are people, I've seen such people, they start fighting, they argue with the master, and they try to impose their beliefs on the master, which is a very stupid thing to do. Then why do you call him a guru then, if you don't want to listen to that person? Why are they doing this? They're doing this because this disconnection with the animal nature has not happened in them. The intellect has not matured to get the knowledge also. So the guru has a double responsibility here. The guru needs to first somehow bring about this surrender, and he does it through love mostly. He loves the disciple like his own child, and that breaks down his defense a little bit. That disease is kind of can be cured a little bit. But he's not going to change much, but he will actually surrender to the guru because the guru is loving. So usually the gurus don't love anybody. Usually their mission is to impart knowledge, not to form relations, not to form bonds with the um, disciples. So the disciple may think that, oh, guru loves me like my child, like my own father, and so on. But it is just a mechanism, a trick to make the ego surrender, to calm down the animal in the disciple. Once the surrender happens, the person listens to the guru, the person understands the guru, like gets into the shoes of the guru, and progress happens. At least the guru can bring that person to his own level, whatever level it is. May not be very high level, it does not matter. But from the totally ignorant level, the guru can bring such a disciple to a little bit of wisdom, which is good. And it is done by removing this kind of mental disorder, affliction. It's called the affliction. The fear prevents spiritual progress. So that kind of fear is absolutely not needed, not necessary at all for a spiritual seeker. The rest, we can forget about that. Everybody has some other kind of affliction. And the lowest kind of fear is okay, it's fine, because it will protect you.
Yeah. So, could you say something that would prove perhaps that death isn't the end of experience?
Sure, it is not the end of experience. It is end of the body. Like we described in the first part, we defined that death as total destruction of the body. We did not say anything about the experience actually. The definition does not involve anything about the experience. Now it is another matter that people conclude some things about the experience or the experiencer. They connect the dots wrongly, possibly, to the dead body which is decaying. So if you want, we can do a very small experiment. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Very small experiment. Are you experiencing anything?
Am I experiencing anything? Yes.
Yes.
Experiencing
many things. You are experiencing many things.
Yes.
So just tell me, when did this experience start?
Let me prove Tarun wrong. When did this experience start? From the transition from the room I was in previously to this room here. I can agree that there was no split, because I can remember the transition being very smooth.
Yes. Can you say it started in the morning, like when you woke up?
Yes. Yes.
But before that, what was your experience before waking up? Was there no experience?
No, because I was awake yesterday.
You were awake yesterday, yes. There was an experience. Plus, before you woke up, there were dreams. Like you cannot experience the deep sleep. It's kind of inferred. We infer the deep sleep when we see the clock. But just before you wake up, you will see that there is a stream of thoughts. And just before that, you will see that there are dreams, like images floating in the mind. Just before that, you are falling asleep. That will be a memory that you are falling asleep. And just before that, the memory of going to the bed, lying down in the bed.
Yes.
And before that, there is the memory of the yesterday.
Yes.
Continuous. The experience has no breaks. It is kind of continuous experience, unbroken experience. And it is another matter that you won't remember everything about it. But you're pretty sure that you had the experience. you won't recall many things about your experience, but you're pretty sure that there were no gaps in the experience. Now, this is one thing. Now, let us try to find out the start of the experience. Let us assume that the experience started at one point in the time. I mean, just as a thought experiment. So now, who is there to experience the start?
Me. It would
You.
be me, right?
So there must be 3 points when you say something started. There are 3 points in the timeline. The first point is no experience. The second point is start of the experience. You witness something start. And the third is the experience is now rolling, is continuing. So you must witness all these 3 in order to say that the experience started. Now let us go to the first point. What can you say about that?
So there is empty nothingness. It's before the world, before the Big Bang, and somehow I'm looking at it. I'm there somehow. It's just me. I'm floating.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is all your imagination.
Yes.
The correct answer is I don't know, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that even witnessing non-experience is an experience. Like to say anything about it, something should go into the memory. Otherwise, you cannot say anything about it. So that experience of non-experience must be there in the memory. And that is another experience. You can say experience of the emptiness, experience of the darkness, of nothing. What is that? People may call it experience of the self. Like there's only me, nothing else. There's only this one, which is looking, but nothing to look, not even darkness. So that is the pure experience of looking at myself only. So we cannot say that there was no experience. We can be pretty sure that there was an experience of simply me, I being myself, isn't it? Now something happens in the experience, and the memories start forming. But it is also continuous. It's also continuous. It is kind of logically impossible for there to be no experience, because you will never be able to prove it. Because no experience needs presence of you. And if you are present, then you are experiencing yourself. You are not experiencing the contents. You are experiencing something, your own presence. So only your presence changes into presence of experiences of other kinds. It is not a start, it is a change. That's all it is. So you can logically conclude, and it is a very solid logic, you cannot actually disprove it, that there is no start of experience. There is no start. There is only change. Experience is change. They do not start. They are not born. And you can do a similar exercise. You can do the similar experiment about stopping the experience. Now let us assume the experience stops. Again, 3 stages are there. One, when you see the experience is happening, it can be any experience. Don't worry about that. The second, the experience drops to nothing. That is the second stage. And the third, there is you watching non-experience. Same thing, but in reverse. Now you will again see the experience turned into the experience of you being there. It is not possible to conclude anything that the experience stops. And third thing, the experience is impermanence, which can be established very firmly because you never see an experience which never changed. We have never seen an experience which does not change. So you can very confidently conclude that that experience of there being only me will change into something else. It's pretty sure. That is 100% you can conclude that. So even before you can say experience started, there was experience. After you think the experience ends, there will be experience. It is eternal. And fourth point, we do not experience time, which we have seen in our previous meetings. Like there is no past, there is no future. From the point of view of the experiencer, these things are not experienced. They are kind of artifacts of the memory. It's illusion. It's illusion. The time is an illusion. So there is no point in discussing anything. When did it start? Because there is no when. There is always now. There is no there also. There is always here. It's always here and now. From my perspective, from the first person perspective, from the point of view of consciousness, it's always now. It never started. And your direct experience says so. You don't remember any starts and ends of the experiences. So you cannot say anything about it. What you can do is you can drop this belief that the experience is going to end. That belief is a stupid belief. It cannot be substantiated. You cannot establish it scientifically, logically, experientially. Then why do you hold that belief? That is not correct belief. What do we say? Any kind of event is not going to stop the experience. It never stops. Now, it's another matter that you dream up an experience after death. That is also illogical. You don't know. You don't know what will be the experience. So please don't dream up anything. It will be there when you are dead.
So death, like I said in the previous video, like the death of what, right? So we first must be clear on what the meaning of the word I means, what the meaning of the word I is, and if it's the body, then like the body obviously is just another form, and it will change in the same way as this form will at some point. But you have all you need, audience. Dude, part 1 is enough. I'll tell you that for free. I'll tell you that for nothing. So yeah, like I think I'm the same. I self-help junkie, you know, spirituality, just like learning. I gotta learn everything. I think but it's simple, isn't it? But what else is there to know?
It is very simple, actually. What is complicated is our belief system. Our belief systems are based on very, very illogical kind of assumptions, illogical assumptions, which are not founded on any kind of experience. If you drop the belief system, it is very, very simple, straightforward. You don't know the exact experiences, don't remember, but you start believing something that is a disaster, and then you conduct your life based on those beliefs. That means your life is not optimal now. It is based on something false, not on truth. So the job of the seeker is to clear these beliefs. Just drop the beliefs, drop the isms. It's kind of not wise to hold these beliefs. Once the slate is clear, well, the experiences will appear in your mind, that you will be able to see everything very, very clearly. I can see everything very, very clearly, actually. I can see past the death. I can see before the birth. It is all possible.
I'm thinking about going on a retreat. Just nothing official. Just in the forest. And use the mind, you know, just being the mind. So
there are ways. There are ways. Probably it will be a good time, because this is the part 2 of the death. It is a good time to introduce the seeker. You know, once the beliefs are cleared, the next stage is that the teacher will introduce these methods of experiencing the death before dying. That means, in common language, you can experience death without dying while keeping the body. Why? Because it is just another experience. You can experience it with the body. The body is a limitation, yes, it's a big limitation. It won't allow you to experience everything because it's kind of a narrow window. So the teacher will teach the student to get past this limitation. Once you're past this limitation, you will see that there is no death actually, and you will see that there is no birth also. It is just like entering a dream and then waking up from the dream. It's almost similar. So how do you do that? How do you get past the limitations of the body? It is very easy. You alter your state of the mind. You enter altered state. It's called altered state. How do you do that? And why is it needed? Right now, our attention is totally on the physical world. It is 100% we are absorbed in the physical world. So much so that we even ignore what is going on inside the mind. Our internal life, what do we say? It is me. And then we forget about what is me. It is not me, it is mind. It is an experience. So you have never paid attention to your mind, and that is why you do not know anything more than the five senses are telling you. You're trapped here in the net of the five senses. The senses are like poison. They poison you, and then you do not see anything else except the world. So the first step on entering any altered state is to get rid of the senses first. The death is simply a natural way to destroy the senses. You can see it now. You can connect the dots now. Death is a very natural way to disconnect from the sensory data that we are receiving in the waking state. And you can guess a little bit what will happen. What happens in every night? Every night we disconnect from the senses. Not totally, partially. Like if you're sleeping and somebody opens the door, it's daylight coming in from the door, sunlight. You can see it. You get disturbed. Your sleep will get disturbed. If you're in deep sleep and the alarm clock goes off, somebody shouts in your room, you know it because the ears are working. The whole sensory system is working. The only thing is that it is very lightly connected to the consciousness when you are dreaming or asleep. We go one step ahead and totally disconnect it. Totally disconnected. That is entering the altered state. Now you know the methods. One of the crude method is drugs. You take the drugs, then it affects the sensory pathways in the brain. That is why you see all kinds of weird stuff when you take drugs. And if the drug is potent, it will take you to a state, like if it is psychoactive, it will take you to a state where you're disconnected from the physical world, like the waking state. And that is your window of opportunity to explore what is the mind, what it will be like after death. That is your exploration. There you can get the data, scientific data, which is the first person experience always. It cannot be done objectively, you see. Stop trying to do the stupid stuff that people do objectively. All the experience is subjective. Get on to the subjective experimentation.
Give us a list of stupid objective stuff.
Like they put the what do you call sensors on the head, or they try to find some kind of activity in the brain which corresponds to these states. Or what will they do? Sometimes they will put a number on the wall somewhere on the roof. Now your job is to find out what is that number. I'm not saying that is impossible. I'm not saying these experiments are totally useless. They will give you something, but it's a waste of time because the real knowledge comes from the subjective part. That knowledge is kind of secondary knowledge, is totally unimportant. It's not going to give you any information actually. What happens after death? What happened before birth? Why the experience cannot stop? These conclusions cannot be made by using machines or by doing this objective kind of experiment. It's stupidity. So you will know. I mean, you can try, and I cannot I cannot say that don't do it. You can try. You can waste your time if you want, and then reach your own conclusions. Which kind of experimentation is more productive? You can reach your own conclusions. So I've reached my own conclusions. I can confidently say that the superior way to experiment on the mind is through the mind, is through the instrument of the mind. The mind is nothing, it's another instrument. You can call it the non-physical instrument. How are you going to study the non-physical? Using a non-physical instrument, not the physical instrument. You cannot carry your camera after death. You cannot take pictures after death. That is stupidity, isn't it? So just imagine the equipment of the scientist is just like camera. It's useless. And the only certain way is direct experience. You must be the one who experiences, not the machines. Nobody else can tell you what happens. Even if the scientists, they conclude something about any altered state, you cannot trust them because it's not your state. It is their state, or they found it out somehow. What happens, which is mumbo jumbo, in my opinion. They cannot conclude anything. Subjective state is direct experience. So another way to experience directly is the different kind of samadhis or different states of the mind that can be reached simply by practicing. That is the elegant way. That is what we use here. Do not use the brutal ways, the brute force ways. There is something in between which I should mention. It is called a floating tank. The floating tank achieves the same thing which a psychoactive drug will achieve. It simply gives nothing to the senses. The senses receive nothing, and so the mind learns to ignore that input. That is called yantra in Sanskrit. Yantra means simply device. It is a device to get out of the world, to stop the world or the senses from interfering in your mental states. So remember, these are all only mental states. There is no truth in them. There is nothing which you can call true. Just like your current state is not true. Whatever you're looking at is not true. It is all mind created. Just like we reached this conclusion in the first episode. If you have skipped it, you can go and listen again. It's very interesting. That's why we start there. We start that by this realization that everything is mind. Everything is mind created. The only thing is the current waking state is being created by the data from the senses. That's all. There is nothing here. Nothing at all. You're looking at nothing. It is all manufactured in the mind. Similarly, when you stop manufacturing these experiences from this raw material of the senses, the mind will find a way to create an experience from other internal senses. What are these internal senses and where are they? Well, you can now theorize a little bit, because all you will see is an experience. You will not see what is producing experience. So a little bit theory, you can assume things like you can say that there are internal senses on an internal body. A non-physical body hosts the non-physical senses, just like the physical body hosts physical senses. That is called the subtle body, also known as the dream body, also known as the desire body, because very deeply related to the causal body, also known as the astral body. In Sanskrit, we call it there are many names in Sanskrit. There are very many different kinds of bodies actually. So collectively, you can call them a subtle body. It's called the Sukshma Sharir in Sanskrit. There are many kinds. Depending on what experiences you are having, you can assume that there is a corresponding body.
What is meant by body?
It is a structure which enables an experience. That is the definition of a body. It will limit everything except a very narrow stream of data, which is coming from the universal mind. And the job of the body is to limit that stream of data so that it is meaningful for this tiny creature, for this tiny immature mind. It can make sense of it, and it can do something, it can experience something. And living a life is simply an experience, you see. There's nothing special in biological life. It's another experience. It's another limitation that the mind has taken on. So you can drop this limitation by altering the state of the mind. The mind will produce another body. The mind will produce another set of senses. It will latch on to any data it gets. Usually it will be the data from your own memories most of the time. That is called the dream state. That is what happens naturally also, you see. The state change of the mind is a very natural process. States of the mind, it goes through those states, cycles through the states every day, every 24 hours. All you need to do is keep the awareness on and record it in your memory. It comes through practice. It is a matter of practice. You can do it by brute force, but all your drugs and your machines and your yantras, they are useless when you are dead. Remember this. They're useless. What will go with you? Your own training. If you train your mind, that will go with you. Otherwise, you will end up in unknown territory. There won't be any control over your experiences. They will be meaningless experiences. And now you can imagine why we don't remember anything. Why we don't remember before birth. Why there is no experience after birth, after death. There is an experience, but it makes no sense. It is forgotten like a dream. It is just a noodle soup of meaningless conceptions. Why will anybody remember those things? And why is that? Because you don't have any training. You never practiced. You never took any spiritual path. The mind is untrained. It is like raw energy. It's nothing. It's meaningless existence. So that is why the guru will start training your mind. The training starts by discipline. The discipline is called yoga. Y-O-G-A, yoga.
So, during meditation, could you give me like a practice, like a discipline thing? One thing I've come up with in meditation is to imagine stuff and control that. So I want sophisticated.
Only a guru, only a teacher can recommend what to do. Because you can take any practice willy-nilly. I mean, nobody stops you. You are the explorer. So you can take on any practice. But what I have seen is they are ineffective. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what is your goal. You don't know what you want. You simply do it because probably it's fun. And the thing is, your progress will be very, very slow if you do it like this. Like imagine trying to learn a language by yourself. You do not know the alphabet. You do not know how to write. You do not even know how to hold the pen. But you go to a teacher, English teacher, and the teacher will give you the same knowledge in 1 year. But if you want to invent your own language, well, it can take many lifetimes. So what we do, we go to the master who has already done all these things. Like they are the giants, on their shoulder we need to stand. That is very fast. Probably that is the only advantage of living in a society, because you will find a master only in a society. Although they live kind of outside the society, but and the society is the way through which you find them, because you acquire the language, you acquire the social interaction abilities through the society. Once you find the master will take you beyond the biological life, beyond the society. And that is the shortest way. That is the best way. So go and find somebody who knows the art of meditation or the art of altered states, how to get there, how to stay there, how to do meaningful experimentation there. You go there and stay there. That is enough learning, actually. You will get a taste of what it is like to be dead. And then you will lose any interest in the world. That is a side effect of the world. And you will lose the fear of death forever. That is another side effect. And that will give you a bigger meaning. Like the pettiness of the world will drop away. Now, such people will stop accumulating stuff. Such people will stop doing the stupid things that the worldly people do, because they have seen something big. They have a bigger meaning for their life. Now, this life, this body becomes another experiment. This existence is meaningful only if you use it as an opportunity to learn. Otherwise, it's a waste of energy. It's a waste of a life, actually, if it is not devoted to learning. Now, you will find there are certain similarities between the other experiences, which we call as extraordinary experiences or altered experiences, and this experience. There are certain similarities. You can guess what are those. All the experiences are driven by the causal body. Don't forget the causal body. The causal body produces all the subtle bodies. So the key is purification of the causal body. If the causal body is not purified, you will get very, very bad experiences or meaningless experiences. For example, if there is fear or anger or these animal tendencies in the causal body, you will get exactly the same kind of experience. In anywhere you go in this whole universal mind, you leave the body, you're dead, or any meditative states, floating tanks, drugs, anywhere you go, you will get bad experience. That will be a bad trip. So purification is the first job we take up, because these latent impressions, they are driving all the experiences. Immediately we get attracted to our own kind. Like attracts like. So even if you want a heavenly experience, you will end up in an experience which the causal body is forced upon you. That is a problem, isn't it? So the masters recognize this problem. It does not really matter in which altered states you are. They are being governed by our tendencies. And so we purify the tendencies at least to a point where the experience becomes meaningful, where you can learn from that experience, where you can conduct the experiment and conclude something meaningful. For that, you need a pure mind. And how to purify the mind? And that is a big problem, isn't it? That takes more than altered states. So the Guru will bring you back to this state, which is our familiar state of being alive in the waking state. And here you start the purification. Start from here. You try to modify the mind through practice, through discipline, to become more pure. Like you remove all the beliefs, you remove all the afflictions of the mind, you control the ego, you don't let the ego define your experiences anymore. Once that happens, you will find all the states are present now. All the altered states are present here and now. Like I am in all the worlds right now. It becomes very, very obvious. You do not need anything then, because you know that I am extending towards to all the realms. I'm already present in all the dimensions. If I'm not present in any dimension, there is no possibility of getting there. Because what is the dimension or a plane of experience in the occult language? It is simply a state of the mind, altered state of the mind. Death is simply another experience where the state of the mind is altered. So that is why when I discuss the states of the mind, there are many states like waking and dreaming, and there are at least 15, 16 states that I mentioned. One of the state is death. Simply a state of the mind. It's not a big deal really. Simply another altered state of the mind. And how are you going to experience it? Totally depends on your spiritual progress. It does not matter if you're rich, does not matter if you're poor, does not matter if you're healthy or beautiful or ugly or weak or diseased. It does not matter if you are educated, does not matter if you hold PhD or BHD or whatever. These things are destroyed at the time of death. There is no use of these things. They're all gone. What remains is your tendencies, your purification of the mind. That determines your any experience. Just like I said, not only the state of the mind, that is death, every other experience is being determined by how pure the mind is. What is going on in the mind? That is what will determine the quality of the experience or the meaning of that experience. Whether it is conducive for knowledge, whether it is producing bliss and happiness or whether it is producing freedom, it totally depends on what are your stored impressions, the latent impressions, also known as the sanskar, also known as the karmic structure. That determines our experience, nothing else. So what is the job of a seeker? To get rid of that bad karma. That is job. That is your job. And it can be done without going into the ultra states, because this state is also an alter state. There's nothing wrong. You're already dead. You are already in the state that happens after death. You see, the physical body is an add-on. It is not you. It is an add-on. And when it drops, where are you? You are in the original nature, wherever you are. Right now also, I am in my original nature. I am that experiencer that is experiencing all the states of the mind. I am here. All the dimensions are present here and now. It can be known very, very directly. I'm waking. I'm in awake state. I'm in the dream state because there are images going on in my mind. Thoughts are going on in the mind. I'm in all the planes at the same time, and I'm the causal body also because it is getting impressed by whatever experience is going on right now. You see, the causal body is present here. It is influencing this experience that is also happening, plus the highest layer, which is the layer of the awareness, is present here. So I am in all the planes already. I am in all the dimensions already. It all simply depends on where you choose to put your attention. And when the attention or the dhyan becomes, or the concentration, meditative concentration becomes very, very strong, you can experience anything you want.
Yeah. I've experienced how imagination. Please describe the. Because you said that death is a state of mind.
It is the same state, which right now you're experiencing something.
Yeah.
It is a mind-created illusion. Same thing. Nothing changes.
How is there much more to say than that?
There is a lot. I mean, I can write 20 books if you want on the states of the mind. There is a lot.
Okay.
It is only initiation. Like I've given you a small clue of what this whole science of the mind is. There is only one science in the whole existence. That is the science of the mind. There is no other science. So we also call it the Maya, and we also call it the science of the Maya, which means the science of the illusion, how the illusion works. Sometimes you want to study it. Sometimes there are preferences in the mind that I want this kind of illusion. I want that kind of illusion. I want to have that kind of experience or this kind of experience. These are the desires in the mind. So if there are desires in the mind, we go and study how the illusion works. Otherwise, on the path of knowledge, we do not bother about these things. We simply get rid of the desires. How to get rid of these desires and preferences and whatever, you see. Because the illusion is not very important. You know what it is. You are seeing it right now. So you drop all that stuff, all that hard work, and simply disidentify with the mind. You simply say, see that I'm not the mind. I'm not these impulses that are appearing in the mind. Whether, even though they are very, very pure, they are oriented towards knowledge. The person wants knowledge now. But we say it is also illusion. It is also an impulse in the mind. It's called the activity of the mind. So we drop the activity of the mind, disidentify with it. Then you don't want anything. That is the state of the bliss. In infinite knowledge is here. It is all illusion. So we drop it. We simply want to know who am I, and that is the whole. That is the end of all knowledge. Once you know who you are, everything ends there. And the funny thing is, everything starts by knowing what I am. It is both the end and beginning of knowledge. Who am I? or what am I, what is my essence. Once you know this, either you know everything essentially, or you don't want to know anything. Both states are same. Knowledge is same as not knowledge. Knowledge is same as not knowing. The one that is knowing is me. The one that is not knowing is me. That is all there is. You are the only one that exists. Nothing else really exists. There is no point in studying it. You do it just as a stage, as a stage to reach in the ultimate state, which is a desireless state, disidentification with the causal body and its states. So you can reach there directly. And that is what is called the direct path. Path of knowledge is the direct path. I take you there in 2 minutes. It takes 2 minutes. That's all. After that, it's all meaningless dream. It is optional now. It's optional to continue the dream and to drop the dream, another preference in the mind. And nothing remains to be done after that.
Okay, so for the last 2 minutes, please, Tarun, take us through.
So, is there an experience right now?
Yes.
What is experiencing it?
Me.
That is what.
Me.
Yeah, that is the end of knowledge. You are that experiencer, the pure consciousness in which all the experiences are appearing. Now, what is the difference between consciousness of an object, which can be the worldly objects, which can be your body, which can be the internal states of the body, or it can be the mental activity. And these are all objects because you are the subject. So, what is the difference between consciousness of an object and the object?
I mean, there wouldn't be an object without me being conscious of it.
Yes, it is same. And consciousness of objects is the consciousness only. And that is end. You are everything. That is the end. It takes 10 seconds to know that. It is so direct. It is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It is the simplest thing in the world. It is easier than breathing, actually. The breathing takes some effort, isn't it? Knowing what you are does not take any effort. That is why it is called effortless path. Effortless effort. It is a direct thing. There is nothing more pure than this thing. And you cannot even talk about it too much. The language is language of illusion. The language is language of ignorance. The language of knowledge is silence. Be silent and see. That is all we need.
Yeah. Okay. I reckon what I'll do is I'll get some questions, and then we can have a more thorough thing about a video about death. Because by the way, viewers, I didn't prepare any questions.
All questions should vanish after this.
Yeah, that's true.
They should vanish. They're all seen as meaningless after this. It does not make any sense to ask anything after this. Even now, if there is any question, then sure, why not? But before you ask the question, do something. Sit down and meditate on your questions first. You will get the answer. It is guaranteed. You will get answers to every question in the universe simply by looking at it as it is, as they are. Drop your beliefs, use your direct experience, use a little bit of logic, and always stay in the center. Center means your real nature, your true being, which is pure consciousness. Stay there and look, and you will find all the answers. So the questions will be dropped. Nothing will remain to ask. And even after that, you have questions, and we'll discuss.
Okay. Yeah. Thing is, with it's not like I'm thinking about people, like the audience, and I'm thinking like the direct path, like you say, 10 seconds I can say it to them, that, they'll still have questions. So I don't know. I'm thinking about that. So
If there are questions, after this, it means that the realization did not happen, or the realization happened, and the mind slipped from that. And the
Yeah.
mind, habitual machine, it slips into ignorance. So the only practice that is given here is that bring back the awareness. Bring back the awareness of what you are. It's also called remembering, remembrance. Remember who you are again and again and again. This should become your practice. There is no other practice. Even for those who are watching, there is no other practice. I will not give any other practice.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Tarun. Of course, again, beautiful knowledge. Hope the audience, hope you're enjoying. Yeah. All right. Peace.
Thank you very much.